Because I have moved our location
Where's it at now?
to Meadows, which is right by the school.
Okay, I will talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll talk about that in today, so.
Okay, I'm gonna call to order the, Kansas Park Board meeting, April 18th, 2023. I need any...
Press the button.
It's in.
Okay,
Yep,
good deal.
thanks.
Sorry.
For those that write slow, button's pushed. Any corrections or comments on, last month? I need a motion for approval on the minutes.
I'll make that.
Do I have a second? Second, thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried for approval of the March 2023 minutes, so. New business, handicap accessible swing, Sarah Bailey. Sarah, you got the floor.
Hello, thanks for having me tonight. My name is Sarah Bailey. I'm here tonight as a community member, but by day I get to be a teacher to some of the coolest, most courageous kids we have in our community. Thank you. Okay. Perfect, that's okay.
Just click through it, it'll work.
So unfortunately for many of these kids, they are not able to access our city parks. So I'm here tonight to ask you to consider the addition of wheelchair accessible swings to our city parks so that all the children in our community can access and play at our parks. We have many children in our community that utilize wheelchairs as their main mode of mobility that would benefit from this. I have sent out a questionnaire to their parents regarding the status of our parks and barriers they have experienced in using them with their children. So I'm going to share some of that information with you tonight. First question I asked was, do you feel our current city parks are accessible to your child? 100% of the parents responded, no. I then asked that they share some of the barriers to inclusion that they have experienced. The lack of accessible swings. It's hard to navigate wheelchairs on our park surfaces. Lack of paved walkways. The slides are too steep for children with low muscle tone. Lack of accessible parking. Lack of accessible equipment. Difficult to place kids in the current swings. And the size of the adaptive swings do not meet the needs of all children. The second question was, do the adaptive swings at our city parks meet the needs of your child? 100% responded no. Some of the barriers in relation to the current swings. They don't support children of various sizes, so some kids are too large and some are too small for our current swings. They don't support children with lack of head control or reduced core strength. Many of the kids in wheelchairs have very specialized designed wheelchairs that support them where they need, and no swing that's made for everybody is going to work for them. Lack of working straps, lack of supports in swings, difficult to lift a larger child into the swing, especially with only one person, and difficult to get a wheelchair to the swing. Would you visit our city parks more often if there were wheelchair accessible swings? 100% said yes. And 100% also said yes, that they would travel to neighboring communities if they had accessible swings over using our own parks. I think the same would be true of neighboring communities, bringing people to our community and setting an example for them of what inclusiveness should look like. So here's an example of what I have in mind looks like. You can have a permanent reportable base for a city park. We probably want a permanent one. But the platform can attach to most frames, so potentially you wouldn't even need the frame depending on what people would, after you guys look at it, I don't know enough about that. My recommendation would be to start by placing a swing at Veterans Park with plans to expand to other parks at some point and further plans to include more accessible play spaces and improved play surfaces. I recommend Veterans Park because of its location, being near the bike path. It's where our festivals and activities most commonly take place, and its proximity to Prairie Meadows, which would allow residents there to also utilize the swings. I would calculate the upper end of the cost being $5,000. The permanent frame and platform is $3,000, shipping is $800, and then any concrete work needed to make it possible. I have attached a link to a website with the swing if you guys want to have time to look into them more. I have an example of one of our community members using this swing for you to see what it looks like. So it straps their own wheelchairs in. They're all supportive, how they need to be supported, and can swing along their peers.
Ms. Bailey, just to say,
Yeah.
a question on that, so when you talk about accessibility, so it looks like this one is just kind of on a grassy surface. Okay, just to
Yep.
clarify.
In a park, I think it'd be best to have it coming off of like a concrete surface.
If possible, yeah.
Yep, this is a privately owned one, so, looking at funding options, obviously, considering current park and rec money, grants, fundraising, possibly labor and supply donations. We have a very generous community who has donated to fixing the entrance to Veterans Park. They're donating to our movie theater. I feel like we would have community members willing to donate both money, labor, and supplies to make this possible for the kids in our community. And I would be happy to help with any grant writing that would need to be done or fundraising efforts. Parents who filled out this questionnaire all had really great input. This was one quote that stuck out to me from one of the parents that I feel like summed up pretty much everyone's feelings about having parks that are accessible to their children. And I am open to take any questions, but we also have families here tonight that I think are really great resources too, and moving forward.
The question I had was, your survey, how many folks did you end up getting survey responses from?
9 families. And I think that's right around what I would calculate based on what I know through my role, that there's about 9 to 12 families in our community that have kids in wheelchairs that aren't able to access any of our parks right now.
Is there something there that indicates that this is for wheelchair handicap only? You know, because it's going to be in the park and everybody's going to be wanting to jump on it and everything. But would there be something, say somebody wheels up into it and says, you know, well, now we have to wait, or do we shoo them off it? I mean, who is it, you know?
Yeah.
Is there something on there that says handicap only?
I mean, I think that's definitely a sign we could attach, and again, coming back.
We could have like Abel's make
Yeah.
something up, you know,
Okay.
and post it outside, or, you know, away from the swing, but right in front of it. So that
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna have kids horsing around
Yeah.
on
Well, I
it
know,
regardless,
yeah,
but.
but I'd hate to see them come up, you know, and
Yeah.
then some of them start to be a little smart at it.
We don't want them to vandalism, we don't want them to break it.
Yeah.
I can see him jumping on it, standing there and saying, "I'll swing back and forth,"
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
kid that shouldn't, but, the swing that you showed was privately owned.
Yep, but it's the same.
It would be the same thing, because part of it's gotta be because it'll be on a city property, it's gotta be probably ADA approved
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yep, and I believe it all is.
That,
You can probably talk more on that.
It is.
Yep.
okay, because that's, you know, let's just say that's the half of it, so as
Yeah,
long
so
as
it's the
that...
same swing you can buy, like, in a permanent option and a portable option, so I think the portable option is typically geared
So
more
do you-
towards families, and the permanent option is geared.
You access the swing from the rear, right?
From the front.
From the front?
So that ramp drops down.
Okay.
And you just push them in backwards, and there's
Okay.
safety chains that keep them from going back. And then you just flip the ramp up, and then the brakes lock on the wheelchair.
So,
It's pretty slick.
I mean, I know up at Veterans Park, we do have like it's like a padded sidewalk that enters onto the playground. Is that something that would have to be installed, or would it be concrete? I just don't know what the ADA requirement
So
would
it's
be.
gonna have to be a hard surface, because that swing is on our grass.
Yep.
And it's a job to get them back to the swing, so, because the wheelchairs aren't designed to go on grass.
Okay,
The
yeah,
mulch
yeah,
and that kind of
yep.
stuff. I mean, you can do it, but you've pretty much exhausted yourself trying to get them to it.
Absolutely.
So that's why like a paved path would work, blacktop or cement,
Yep.
something like that would work.
So if I could just interject, knowing a little bit about some of these things, I would suggest like a poured-in-place surface,
Okay.
like the rubberized
Yep.
poured-in-place that's ADA accessible, and then it also meets all the other criteria for fall
Falls.
prevention
Yep.
and falls.
That's
So
what
instead of a concrete surface in the play area, certainly, I would think if we looked at some of our vendors, not that this, but even our playground
Yes,
manufacturers
I
and
do.
vendors, they're gonna have, if not this exact model, they're certainly gonna have other options that could affix to our current,
Right?
I mean, I know at Veterans, we have the one old, you know,
Yeah,
but we also
But
have
I
others.
know, Veterans is probably a great place, like, I mean, the accessibility and everything that goes on up there, but we have quite a bit of sidewalk already up there. So I think, being able to add the ADA pad stuff would be probably the easiest park to do it to, absolutely.
Are you familiar with grants that are available for this? Do you know what a grant would maybe qualify to?
So I have looked at some different grants. A lot of them, unfortunately, like you have to create your account to get in to see kind of what's out there, and not being a like council member or working for the city, I didn't go in and make those accounts because it probably have to come from someone in your department. I'd be happy to help with those. I have written like local community grants to Walmart before, and I've gotten those. I think looking, kind of a lot of the average I see is around the $500 to $1,500, $3,000 mark, depending on what you're looking at. A lot of it comes down to time of year and when due dates come by. So you have to do some research and find ones that are on current and have money left for this year.
Is the cost for shipping, is that kind of, if you did more than one, let's say you put one at the elementary school, you put one at Veterans Park, and you put one at Lions Park, what, would the shipping exponentially go up, or is it just a flat rate?
I would have to look more into that, are you?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because we just did the one, and
Yeah, and this is shipping to a loading dock. It was different if you didn't have a loading dock, but I'm assuming somewhere in the city we have a dock that we can deliver to, hopefully.
Well, we have a forklift, so.
Okay.
I don't know if that would
It
make.
was like almost double the price if you don't have a dock, so I'm like, well, we're gonna find a dock
I
somewhere in
think it would
town.
make a difference if, you know, having a forklift is probably the same as the
Perfect.
loading dock, so I wouldn't be concerned about that.
And I ask about buying more than one or purchasing more than one, because if you went to the Lions Club and looked at donations through them, or if you went to the joint ventures and found a way to have all three groups, Cass and Manorville and the school district, kind of combined, because there's more than, there's enough need for more than just one, I would say, especially
I agree.
having one at the district would be great for you during the day.
And I have reached out to school administration about this as well, and they're looking into finding budget for it.
But if
What
it,
the status of that accessible park at the school is?
So the accessible park we have at the school is the community ed playground, it's not the elementary one.
Right, you know the status, so I know they got a big grant for it last year.
They got the grant, they're moving forward with it, hasn't been started yet as far as, do you know any more about where they are in the process with that? And that one does not include a swing, that's wheelchair accessible. Any other questions?
this is a silly question that maybe doesn't tie in, but we've had the Boy Scouts come in for their big project. Would this be something that might qualify for that too? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it would be a great project for them.
Yeah, because then
A lot of
they're,
years ago, they have to have a component, like play together. It's not just like buying a swing and installing a swing. But that's a good point. I mean, I think trying to get some donations towards it from some of the city groups would be a good idea, so.
I think we would have a lot of community support if this was put out, that it was something we needed and the community knew.
definitely a need,
Mhm.
definitely a need.
It goes back, I'm gonna say probably 15 years that, it may be longer than that, I've been on here for a while. To the point where we looked at an ADA playground, period. You know, having the swings, I don't know, sharply in the back of my mind somewhere there's, you know, we had kind of a little retaining wall, and just to make it specifically for the handicapped
Yeah.
accessibility, and it seems to me the dollars back 15 years ago were quite high, so I think that just kind of got pushed aside.
Yeah.
Not saying there wasn't a need, but I think it was more dollars and kind of based on usability and where do you put it, and 'cause it became its own little park area, which I think is a phenomenal area, but, you know, nobody was willing to throw in $50,000 to get it done, so, but you're right, it is a need that, you know, it'd be, love to have one in every one of our parks that has a playground modular or some sort, or a swing set.
Yep.
So, you know, one, I don't think would be enough, two would be wise, three would be super, obviously, and even if the school
Mhm.
changed their plan, said, let's put one of these in, because it's really not that much compared to...
No, it's not terrible.
If you look at what a playground modular costs, and, you know, just one phase is $80,000.
Yep.
That's a pretty cheap $5,000, so, so sometimes...
I think it's doable.
Yeah, and it is, it's just a matter of where do you put it.
Yep.
Probably most of the expense would be getting the soft pad getting up to it,
Mhm.
and how far does that go off of a parking or a handicap parking area? I hate to put this next to too close to where it doesn't feel like it's in the park.
Yep. I agree.
That's the other side of things, so that's probably where a lot of the expense may come from, and like I said, donations, grants.
I think with our, you know, our expansion of Veterans Park last year, I mean, we added mulch, There's quite a big open space in between the swing sets and the playground modular. I think there's a potential, depending on the dimensions of that, but there's probably a good potential somewhere close to a sidewalk.
Because we have the sidewalk there, yeah, to stretch off of.
That's a great spot, somewhere up there. I'm hoping, I'm trying to find something in my head where it would work best.
And maybe it would be good, Sarah, to have some of your families that did the survey, because some of them mentioned easeability of getting around the park at Veterans. Maybe have them come down, or have a family just share with you where they think locations will be best based on accessibility with wheelchairs, because maybe there's spots that maybe look ideal for us in terms of cost and placement, but isn't ideal for that family and that child to get onto the swing. So that might be something to think, but even looking at Lions Park too, just as another option.
I think that's a good idea. And I think moving forward too is, like, you guys are planning new parks in the future, or additions, or fixing up parks. We do have some really great families in the community that I know would be happy to be a part of planning those things. That might include kids even more than just the swing.
Just one suggestion I might have, and maybe this is more for you, Tim, too. It might be something, if you're willing to invest, to have the city engineer take a look at it. Of course, they're familiar with ADA accessibility and needing to be at less than 5% grade for all paths and sidewalks and everything. So if there's a spot or two identified by some of the families, maybe just verify that you can actually meet the criteria to be ADA accessible based on some of the standards, so.
Budget too.
Yep.
I know you've got different priorities this year, but, certainly something we want to try and fund if we can, so.
And I saw someone in the back, Greg, had a comment a minute ago. Sorry, I just wanted to recognize you, I know you.
No, that's okay, I was just gonna say, obviously I'm biased for children, but if you see what the weight limit on, this is 800 pounds, this could easily be used for adults too, so there are those individuals in our community, because lots of people can share it.
Sure.
Even if we could do a cost sharing with, like, joint ventures.
That's a good point.
Because they don't have any big projects.
I was gonna say, where we're at with joint ventures this year, Ben?
We had my first meeting quite a while. We have a meeting in May, May 5th, I think. But the last thing we've purchased were pitching mounds, and that's it. Otherwise, Manorville's got a playground modular that's already paid for. So as far as I know, there's nothing else.
Maybe we can check into that if we want to try and fund this year right away, if it's not a huge amount of cost, so. Yeah, well, that sounds good.
I think it's pretty feasible.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think, to your point, more than one would probably be best. If we get one up at the school, and then one of our parks, and then eventually down the road to apply it, Northeast Park, I want to get a playground modular out there, but,
Even if it costs less to ship, it might cost less to ship 3 versus 1, I don't know.
Right.
If they're already,
it
could cost more. It depends on the cost of shipping, but if it were cost exponentially less to just buy all 3 at once versus buying one at a time and shipping each one at $800, it would save money, and even if you can't put all 3 out at once, if funding is there to buy 3 and then we can buy 1 pad, it would make sense to save money on shipping long-term versus paying shipping once every year or two.
My guess is shipping's gonna be based on a pallet size.
How many can they put on a pallet?
How can they stack it to take up one particular part of the box truck, and
I can send them a message tomorrow and let maybe Ryan if you can text them.
if it's a case where they need a loading dock, at the store where you got a loading dock, because because they say if it's either curbside or if you have something they can back up to, they just wanna know if they gotta bring it in a box truck or a truck that needs to have the lift gate on it, so. But I think, if they know it's going to a city municipality, that they realize there's some pretty big stuff gets unloaded, it won't be an issue, so. Okay. No, I think it sounds like the majority here has no problem with,
Thank you, guys.
you bring it forward and us see what we can do to get it worked in, but.
Awesome.
No promises.
Tonight, so my email should be on here.
Love to see next week, but it won't be next week.
Yes.
Okay, you got it. Awesome, thanks.
And my contact information is there, or Ryan can get in touch with me, and if you want to get in touch with families, reach out to me, and I can get permission to share their contact
Sure.
if you want to walk through parks with them.
We got some things to look at and question and.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay. Park planning.
I think
Dean.
let's go, can we go to the
You want-
softball first?
Or is that, Dean, is that yourself?
Yep.
Okay, Dean, we're gonna jump to C, adult volleyball,
Nope, softball.
softball.
Adult softball, not volleyball. Well, we play
I
volleyball,
want to
but
see Dean play volleyball.
I used to, but we're not age anymore.
You didn't play a lot of stuff. All right, well, jump, skip
thanks for having me,
softball, yeah, go
We have
ahead.
one concern, that we have from a number of teams, I shouldn't say numbers, only 7 teams I think we have in that bend, we had was plus 7 teams playing. One of our concerns have been for years, and it doesn't seem to have gotten anywhere with our past, Park and Rec director, was our donation to the festival in the park. We have kind of felt that we've kind of got pushed into doing that. When we asked him about it, he said, well, you either pay it or you don't play. So we kind of just figured, we're gonna pay it and we want to play. Last year was kind of a mess with our softball league. Ronnie had us signed up with a sanction and umpires, and the umpires never came. We ended up umpiring over half our games. We still played, because basically this bunch of guys want to go down and have some fun. We had a middle band, and we brought back a proposal that dramatically reduced our fees from, I think it was $475 down to $325. But still, part of that fee, $175 out of each team goes to Festival in the Park. And I guess we're wondering why that decision was made and why we as a group have to donate, when it should be a free will donation. We would rather see the money that we give to the $175 or whatever you guys want to decide, go to something that's going to be maybe field improvements or park improvements, or maybe even the swing that Sarah just talked about would be a great idea. But some of us have decided that at that $175 to go to Festival in the Park, we might not play. We might not have a league. We might have 3 teams down there playing. And that's not what we want. We want to use the fields. We want to get down there and we want to have a good time. So that was our main concern that we had, is we want to know, we'd like to know why the reason was that why we were asked to donate $175 to Festival in the Park out of each team, and if it could be changed to donate to someplace else.
So let me comment on that. It goes back to the old softball association, which I was part of, and that's where we put the banners on the fence and did a lot of donating towards non-charitable. So when it was split into some went to the city, because at that point, that's when the city also provided softballs and...
Right, yep, they supplied all that stuff, yep.
I think back in the day, I'm gonna say probably started at 135, maybe went to 150, and probably ended up at 175, whatever it was. But that's what, in the day when I was part of the organization, that's what the softball association got for dollars. But at that point, we were an association that did a lot for the parks. We also helped build the dugouts or put money towards the dugouts and a lot of other stuff that Ronnie didn't have in his budget, so we kind of helped with that.
Yeah, that's when we had a lot more teams. That was fun.
Right.
Yeah, we had 2 leagues and 3 leagues and girls' nights and
Yep.
family, co-ed
So
nights.
when our association went out, they said, how do we keep the banners on the fence? And I think that's when the city came up, or Ronnie came up, or however it came about, was the festival in the park would take over what kind of Castle Softball Association did. So that's where that transition was, when the KSA disbanded, and the festival was like, well, let's keep it going. The fees are about the same. There was no issues with dollars and teams and paying. Where the money went from there, or how they managed that, I'm not sure. How much they went back to the parks, I don't know. If it just helped fund them for some of the things because they were lack of funding for the festival, I don't know. That'd be something that the festival of the park, but get a little bit of background of where it's originated from and why. Now, as you're saying, for today now, I have to agree with you. How's that money being? Is it just because? Because instead of giving it to the KSA, now the festival gets it?
Because don't the businesses that have their names on those fences, don't they pay to have those banners put up there?
They used to.
They don't even know?
Are the banners still around?
No.
See, and that's the case where...
Well, yet there's a picture on the Festival in the Park website of the banners all on the fences.
Okay, well, I know West Concord took part of what I did, because I gave my paperwork, and they did a phenomenal job at continuing out with that in West Concord, so...
I know that, John, I'm on the festival committee.
Sure.
But I'm new with the festival committee, only a couple of years. But I know that John has talked about taking over the banners. Now, whether that means, I think it means that John is going to be putting banners on the fence. But I don't know that we need that money from the softball association for that really, because all of the businesses are donating to our Festival in the Park event.
So, I mean, the money is not the issue. We would love to donate to park improvements or field improvements, or like I said, swings for sure, something that actually that we can get a benefit out of, as far as our kids or our family members get, because some of the people that play don't even go to town, so they don't even attend our festival. So that was kind of the bad part of the deal, and someone's like, oh, you know, if we get this money at Festival Park, we don't even come there, you know, what do we get, what benefit are we getting out of it? And I guess that's what it's in return.
Yep, and to go back to the banner side, there still is an additional side fee for those that did advertise their banner. The first thing is they had to buy their banner up front, and the
Right,
banner was
yep.
expensive free. Following years, it cost them $100.
Right.
Is what we charge.
Yep.
Because we roll up, we store it, we maintain it, we
Yep.
put the zip ties. Myself, we fixed it, we had able to sew it. That
Yep.
was all part of the $100 additional fee now.
Right,
from-
because I was at the end of that, we did, and I remember doing that, every year we always sponsored one, so, yeah.
So, but I agree, you know, in this case, $175 times 8 teams. That's not that much.
Yep.
So
I
why don't we just move it over to the swing fund? It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so.
That'd be a great idea, I would love to see that, go to that, so.
Teams, you know, do we create a different fund in the city, and does the city make sure that money stays
I
for?
think we can just note it in the books. I mean, it's a line item, you know,
Okay.
that receivables budget that Jan would work on.
And then the other fee goes to the park department to maintain the field and stuff, is that correct, or whatever, the 125 a team, that's for you, right, for the
Yeah,
park department?
So, I
to-
mean, I just, like I said, being new at this position, I had no notes on why things were the way they were. So I just kinda, after I talked with them and got them out of the sanction because they weren't getting, there's no point for them being in sanctions because they played on other teams.
That would go to the B6.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
So we got them out of that. Ronnie's thing with that was this liability issue but realistically, our insurance covers anything that's done up at that park. The sanction only covered them had they not been drinking alcohol or
Right.
something. Well, let's be realistic.
Very limited.
It's not happening.
Okay.
So then I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what would their fees realistically be based off rental, our maintenance, electricity? So I just kinda did the math on that. With $30 a day, or for field rental, they're at like $480. I did $30 an hour for 2 hours for maintenance, whether it's picking up trash, marking out ball fields, mowing ball fields, raking them, and then that's $960. And then 25 for electric a day, or for each game,
For fields.
per night.
Yep.
So, I mean, it came out to 1840, divide that by 7 is 263 per team. So that's our cost. We're not making anything off that. So by donating to Festival in the Park, we lose money off their fees. So, I mean, I didn't know why we donated, no one else had any reasoning, and as talking to them, they said, well, Ronnie said, it's either donate or don't play.
Sure, and I'm sure at some point in time, the park board or something told them that's how they wanted to set up, and it sounds like Greg's got kind of the backstory on it, so, but moving forward, it seems like it might be a good source of funding for some of these other special.
Yeah, I would love to see us fund the swings.
Well, as long as, you know, the festival doesn't have it earmarked, the dollars for something, I wanna make sure that's,
Would you like me to talk to Candy about that? 'Cause
first
she
of all,
handles
'cause if
that.
she says it's just money coming into their general,
I mean, I kinda look through the sponsorship pages they have, I know the softball association's not even listed on it as far as maybe the ball drop or any of the, you know, the obstacle course or belly flop or nothing, so.
help pick up her sponsor, yep, so,
I'd be happy to check with, Candy and see if that's okay, if it's just discontinued, and I can get back to you, Ronnie, about that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I can get ahold of her tomorrow. Are you guys interested in having a tournament again?
You know, we talked about it a little bit, I mean, 21st, and I kinda talked about it again. The tough thing is the weekend that we have it is usually men's has 2 or 3 state tournaments, a C, a D, and an E tournament around here, which a lot of our guys go to, so, we're still talking about having this tournament. If we do probably just do it one day, Tony and I are gonna get together first part of May and talk about it for sure, so, yeah, it's a possibility.
Saturday would be the day.
Yeah, Saturday would probably be the day, yep.
Yeah.
'Cause you kickball's Friday night, yeah, we would do Friday night no matter what, so that's the worst if we do Saturday, and maybe then Sunday if we get enough teams, but, so.
I think you could tell your teams, you know, just come and support our vendors at
Right.
least, you know, during
Yep.
that time, during your tournament, 'cause we're always looking for more people to, it's hard for us to get vendors for small events.
Yeah.
You know, in place of us, getting money.
I used to run that tournament for years. There's a couple years, we had 18, 20 teams here coming, and I mean, it was fun. Like, they always go there, they'd go to the park and eat and have a blast, but it's kind of, I mean, softball boom is dying in Minnesota. It's definitely a dying sport. I mean, we used to have 20,000 members, now I think they're down to like 8 or 9,000, so it's not a family thing anymore. We used to bring families down to the park and on Friday nights and play co-ed, and there was 8, 10 teams. Now, the last time we had 3. It's definitely dying in Minnesota. And it's not just Minnesota, but
So what are our fees right now that we charge softball? Is it 300?
No.
$325, right? $325.
Okay.
Yep. And that's not a problem, no.
Right, and that was hands down unanimous, everyone had no problem
No.
with what the price is, it was where their money's going.
So you're looking at,
And I understand that, I
there's
mean,
about $60 left up to your $263.
right,
A team to put towards a project every year that the park board could talk about, bring back to you, Ben, and then you could bring it to the softball association. When you have your manager's night.
Even if it went up, I mean, as long as people knew where it was going, I don't think they'd have a problem donating to it.
I think if you, part of what I get from yourself is, why do I gotta write 2 checks?
Right, that was part of it too.
Yep, just give me 1 check, I'll tell the guys, we gotta make up $400 to play, yeah, we don't have umpires, or
So
$375 or $350.
and I'm not saying that next year the rates won't go up, but
Right.
I just took out what the sanction fees were and what they would pay for umps.
And not to say next year we're gonna have to be sanctioned to have umpires.
Yeah.
If we got enough support for it, so.
And like I said, I didn't know, I know there was no records of why you guys were paying what you were paying, regardless of
Right.
the festival. I didn't know what the maintenance fees were, I didn't know what electric usage is, so.
So now that we got a
Now
basis,
that I at least
Right.
have an
Yep.
idea of what it
Okay.
is.
so let's say for this year, we're at $325, that's good, next year maybe $375.
Right, maybe, exactly.
The city's gonna get, and we'll know what that little special pool, and something that's gonna come up, might be just a...
Right, maybe something else that the park department needs that we can have donate to, which would be great, yeah. We'd love that.
Do we need a motion, Tim, to change that?
That'd be a good idea to let the park supervisor, set that fee and separate it.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a motion to change the softball fees away from the festival in the park to be incorporated into the basic dues for a softball team coming into the city of Casson for next year, correct?
Well, I think it's gonna...
This coming year.
You haven't paid yet?
No, we haven't paid yet, no.
Okay, so for, at this point, for this year.
So we would just make 1 check to the city of Casson, right? You guys would put in your fund and you disperse money where you want to go to what charity.
Yep.
And that'd be great. You guys can, as far as I go, you guys can pick the charity where you want to go to. If you just let us know, so we can tell our guys, hey, this is what part of the money's going to, the donating, like I say, to the swimming or improving the parks or whatever we have to do. So that'd be awesome. I'm the guy that, they'd love to know that, so.
Okay. So,
I think we can just say right now that I would like to see it go towards the swings.
I would too.
Hands down.
I would agree, since it's on the table and a good use of money up front.
Yep.
So,
I'd
Make that motion.
okay.
be happy with that.
Write it.
That'd be great.
Ben?
I'll second it.
I think it's, all right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
you.
Enjoy
Okay.
the season.
Thank you.
Okay, going up to park planning. Ally?
Good evening. My name is Ali. I'm a student from Winona State University. I'm looking forward to graduate this upcoming May 4th. My major is political science, and I'm glad that I'm working as an intern here at Kansas City. I'll be working with Ian. Thank you for everything, by the way. I'm looking forward to work on this proposed park planning project, and I'll focus especially on creating a plan for East Diamond Park in Northeast Casson. A park is about the people it serves, so it's important to determine the needs of the community first. What I am right now is proposing to initiate an engagement process to ensure that we receive the feedback from the community. This might include a survey both in person and online, and send a survey in the mail to the residents that live near the park. Once I get a clear picture of what the community needs, I will look the park asset and see how it meets the need of the community and what could it be different. At the park board meeting on May 16, 2023, I will give full presentation on the finding from the community engagement process and the plan that I will create over the next few weeks. And I will appreciate any opinion or suggestion that you guys might have.
Well, the first opinion I'm gonna have is a handicap accessible swing. So there's number one on your agenda, and I think you have some backers behind you, so, and I'm sure you would've found that in your research, that would've been missing anyway, so.
Yes, the first day I mentioned to him, but I'm still looking forward to do more research and send survey and see what kind of survey that I will get from the community, especially the people who live nearby the park.
I can tell you right now, it's gonna be 100% positive. Because I'm there, my grandkids are there, my kids are there, and there's nothing on the east side of the highway for kids to play on. All the kids have to bike and cross the highway. So we need something at that park, and it's all families that live around that area with little kids. So if you survey them, you will get good results for that.
That's great.
I think some of that is we're still waiting for, is it Miners property?
Yeah, you
To
know,
come available
part of
around
what,
that park?
Part of what Ally and Ian are doing too is I've kind of got them tasked to look at some park planning in the northeast part for what we got already there. You know, Ben is kind of unpacking the budget from last year, still trying to sort of see exactly where funds are earmarked for, and so trying to figure out what we actually want to do next. We know there's certain items like a modular out there, park shelter, but they're going to require water and sewer connections, some different things that'll have to be done, and so I think, Ben will have a little bit better grasp, and then usually some of the information that Ian and Ally come up with, it'll help them to help kind of planning going forward.
We have the space for modulars out there. I mean, that is my ultimate goal next.
Yeah. Northeast, yep.
We looked at that with Ronnie.
That's quite a undertaking. I mean,
What'd you say, Ryan?
The prices of it.
We've looked at that field with Ronnie, looking at putting something between that and then the next field down from it, correct?
Yeah, I think actually modular will probably be on the south side. So south side would be either, when they
Towards
built
the
it, the
parking
parking
lot.
lot was not put exactly where I would have put it.
No.
Because they kind of may have wasted a little bit of space there, but I think we could still get a park shelter and a park modular in the land that's there. Additional ball fields would require that minor property, to your point, Greg, about the expansion to the north side, for
Yep.
sure.
All right.
The KM Baseball Association wanted to put a batting cage somewhere over there too.
Softball Association, yep, and I actually just met with him not too long ago again, so.
There's been some thoughts about that park we've talked about in the last 6 months.
Okay. So it's not like we're not trying to get something, but dollars also
Right.
talk too, so, but we see the need, and that's kind of why that's, at least we've got the ballpark as a good footprint over there to work off of, so.
Well, I think they're gonna talk about it, think about it, maybe if you have any feedback for Ally, just email Ian or myself or Ben, and just say, hey, what about this or what about that? That way you can relate to him, and then we'll work on a timeline for when he's gonna get those surveys out, and I'm not sure, I haven't talked to Ian and him about it quite yet, but we'll figure it out sometime this next month, obviously, and then hopefully have a report back for you next month.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay,
Greg, I'm afraid I have to step off another meeting.
yeah, thanks, Tim.
Apologize.
No, we got the important stuff done, now we can talk about you, so.
Okay, good.
It's all on camera.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, have a good night. Oh, and thanks, Chris, for your service.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, that's at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to, anything else on what we've covered so far? Let's go to C, the adult volleyball league, so.
So I had a gal, Samantha, email me about starting an adult volleyball league up at North Park.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
She unfortunately couldn't be here. She said it'd be about 4 to 5 teams. Sounded like it would be pretty low-key. Kinda asked, I wish I would get to meet with her. She was, like I said, she was on vacation, so she didn't get to attend this meeting. I guess my question is, do we charge to this? I mean, it sounds like she kinda wants a little maintenance.
Sand and stuff?
And which, I mean, I don't disagree, 'cause there's kids up there building sand castles and stuff. I'm sure they don't wanna, deal with that.
Now, it goes back, Chuck, you were on board, I think, when we kinda cut that better for the volleyball court that's there now, the sand court up at North Park, right, you're talking?
Yep.
Just to the east, maybe not? Okay, so I'm going off my memory again. Good luck to you guys. 'Cause when it used to be the horseshoe pits up there, they were on the north side,
Yep,
and those have been since pulled out, correct?
correct.
I think then we concentrate on the volleyball court, because I think during Festival in the Park, they want to have a volleyball tournament. So we, I think we cut the edges sharp, we put in some special sand, it wasn't just regular sand, seems to me. So we've done some stuff, but there's only one court there, right?
Correct.
And they can have a league with one court?
Yeah, it sounded like it.
Okay,
With 4 to 5 teams, that's only a few matches.
I suppose.
So, I mean, or a few games.
however, games match, or whatever, volleyball.
I'm not.
I'm not a leaper either, so. But I think besides just the net and probably bringing in a special type of sand, I'm gonna say different than the pro, 'cause I know some of that sand doesn't stick to a sweaty body. I don't think we went to that depth, but it was not a gritty sand, it was more of a play sand, child's play sand.
With what's, I mean, if you bring in new sand with the...
Or additional sand,
stuff,
yeah.
I think we could bring in some additional sand. I just don't wanna spend money on a quality sand and mix it in with junk, so then now you're...
And that's where, and they may be able to tell you, is the sand that's there good enough for their league at this point?
Sure it
At
is.
that point, if they're saying, it just needs to be
Raked out once in a while.
raked out or more, maybe a little more, you never know how much got kicked out,
We don't
or
have any fancy equipment to rake it. I mean, essentially, we'd be up there with...
you just use a garden rake or
Yeah, I mean,
a mulch
something
rake.
just to smooth it out. So, I mean, just kind of an estimate, we'll just say an hour to...
An hour for maintenance, and there's probably, I'm sure there's line boundaries, I don't know if it's...
So I mean, that would be something that I have to contact her. Do you want the boundaries, are you...
I think they just play the dirt, I mean...
Yeah, and that's what I assumed is like the grass edge,
Yeah.
because I ran IBM Complex for 3 years, and I mean, when we did their sand volleyball court, it was stapled down, boundaries, I mean, they went to the whole 9 yards for that.
Well, they're probably just happy to be able to use
Yeah, and they said
use
it's
what's
real
there.
low-key, relaxed league. I just, like I said, I don't know if we gotta maintain it. I mean, realistically, we should probably charge something for our maintenance on it.
But they would run their own league.
But they would run their own league, they'd ref their own league, it's not gonna be quite like softball, the prep that we do for softball.
And if you talk about renting a softball field for a softball game, you gotta rent the volleyball court for a volleyball game.
Right.
If they want us to prep it. If they say, we'll do the raking, we'll do our own stuff, well then, we'll make sure the sand's there and there's no maintenance on our side
Right.
besides just normal maintenance, so,
So depending on, we could go $30, I mean, that's what it is for a ball field. So we could do $30, because that's pretty much our cost to rake it or whatever, and make sure the garbages are emptied the next day, and depending on how many weeks they do it at.
Does it interfere with the rental of the shelter so close by?
Yeah, that's something that we would have to work on. If someone's renting that shelter, they're renting the shelter, not renting, per se, the volleyball court, so they would have to understand that if there's someone in that, shelter, that they don't have use of that shelter. And I would just have, I would just have to make sure, okay, if they do it on a Wednesday night, that if someone's renting the shelter on a Wednesday night, that I let
Both
them
would
know,
know.
saying, hey, the pavilion's rented, you guys gotta stay out of it.
Well, I think letting the people that are renting the pavilion know, you know.
Yeah, there
And
will be
and same thing that the volleyball coach, there's a volleyball league.
And like I said, I don't know what, days she's looking at. She kinda said 6:15 and 7:15 would be and then 8:30 would be the last time, last match or whatever, so it's not like they'd be there too late. Obviously, once it's dark, they were not gonna be able to play really anyway, so, we would just have to figure out a day that would work for them, and
And if we charge them per team, I guess I don't know, I'm on both sides of the fence. I hate to charge somebody for it's already provided, we don't have to do the sand, they're gonna do their own raking, they're gonna manage their own league. There's nothing different than providing a frisbee park that
How about,
they can go play frisbee and not have to pay a thing.
how about just like a down payment or something, in case something happens to the net or something like
Right.
that? If nothing happens throughout the year, then maybe they get the money back.
The fee covers the maintenance of it, but it also provides proof that they have the field during that time. Nobody else can just show up and go, well, I was here at 6:10.
right.
I have it because it's first come, first serve. If we have official league, this is the date, they paid the fee, it's theirs for this time. And you might have some upfront maintenance, just cleaning it up right away.
Right.
Either way. I will find out what day she wants to do it, how deep does she want you to go with, does she want around the perimeter, do they just want it cleaned up, do they want any sand? Get some info from her, get a cost number, and then divide it by 5 and offer that.
Yep.
And, because we're not here to make money.
No.
City's not trying to make money off them, we're just
And
trying
that's-
to
and
cover
I-
the cost of the facility and the area.
At some point, she could've just not emailed me and just...
And they could've just been up there on a Wednesday
So,
night.
I don't wanna seem like we're trying to charge them,
Well,
but...
might be a good, you made a good case, is at least at this point, it locks in that court for that particular
It'd be nice to
league.
see it utilized anyway. I mean,
Right.
other than-
And once somebody sees it's like, hey, they got a league up here, maybe we should
Then
I mean, it could
jump into
potentially
it.
grow into something bigger, so...
If we don't charge volleyball, what's gonna stop softball from guys going, why are we paying for this?
Right.
Let's just show up on Thursday night to play.
Oh.
Well, I'll get back to her and see how serious on our end she wants us to be, as far as, do we need it lined out, or are you just looking for us to kinda rake it smooth and make sure...
Or if they say they're gonna rake it, just make sure it's reserved for us at that point.
Right.
A small, $25 a team or something, and it's in. Nothing different than men's basketball at the school, sometimes that's such a minimal fee. Or like I said, it's nothing different than jumping on the Frisbee golf course, somebody saying, I have a Frisbee league, can we reserve the course for a Tuesday night when it's open, so,
Are they still playing up in events, up in that, don't they have a...
It looked pretty run down, I'm gonna say no. Just based on the appearance of it.
I haven't seen it
Ask her
for
if
a
she'd
while.
have a tournament during festival. When you talk to her.
One step at a time.
They do that,
Put my
they do
plug in.
that, they do that money thing too, don't they, during the festival? They
Yeah.
put coins in there for the kids.
Yeah, the
and-
first thing Saturday morning is the coin hunt for the kids.
Okay.
okay. All right, so you'll ask a few more questions and...
Yep.
Okay. Boulevard tree planting program, D.
So that, just ended the end of March. We had a total of 26 trees, that people called in for. Well, I would say 22 trees, some of them were replacements, but, there was quite a bit. I probably could've had another 10 or more trees. We reached my budget. Unfortunately, I had to use some of that budget for removal. Our equipment's not quite tall enough for some of the removals that we do. But I guess I just wanted to give you guys an update that, I mean, there's a definite need, and I couldn't tell you how many people I talked to that we removed trees for that had no idea about the program. So I think my next step, this kinda goes with the community ed brochure. I would like to really push this Boulevard program. I mean, adding these trees to our community. I mean, there's so many new areas that don't have any trees down their boulevards. And it just kinda sucked to have to turn people away the last few weeks because I was over my budget. And I don't wanna that's consequences for me, so I don't wanna go over my budget.
And I think that's the case, we're adding more money to the budget knowing that we ran into an issue and that we're having, 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 4 years ago, we didn't have as much need, but as we've had some street repairs and trees coming down, and like I said, what point do we replace a tree that took a tree?
I just think there's a lot of things that people don't know that we will do for them. I'm really strong on, we're still a small community, we help out everyone in our community, but there's a lot of people, I saw probably 2 homeowners that took down trees that we would have done for free, because they were within the right-of-way. And whether they ended up paying someone to go do it, or they did it themselves, but I think there's a lot of people that don't really truly know what we would do for them. And I think,
I mentioned in the pamphlet or the...
Yes, and like I said, I'd really love to push, I know Ronnie loved this Boulevard program, I mean, he's got records from the 80s of what we planted, and that's awesome to say that we still have those records, but I would love to see us push that a little bit more and try to get more people to, be part of the Boulevard program. I mean, it's a 50-50 share. You get a, $400 tree for $200 with a year warranty on it. I mean, that's a good...
Sure.
And they plant it. That company came in quick. We have 3 of our 3 trees in our Boulevard are all Boulevard trees through the program. It's a great program.
So the program is cost sharing of the tree, planting of the tree, and then maintenance and removal if it comes to removal time?
So the Boulevard program, just off this is, the citizen will buy 50% of the tree, we cover the other half, they come and plant it, I do the locating, or, meet with them and we do okay, this is your parameters of where you can plant it, or however many trees you want, you have to be these distances apart. As far as the removals, if they're Boulevard trees like the ash trees, or a rotten tree or a tree you just feel like is a hazard, we remove those for free, as long as it's within the parameters that is within our right-of-way.
They replace them within a year, correct? If it dies
Yeah, so
within a year?
Most people will contact me, so like I said, I had three people call me saying, the tree that I bought this year, or last year, doesn't look good, it didn't look good from the day they put it in. Unfortunately, some of these people that are either not watering them, that's what our warranty is for.
So in other words, we just need more money in that program again.
I would like to see
At one
that.
point, there probably was plenty, we probably never really used it, so it probably slowly dwindled lower to the point where we can beef it back up.
I can't remember what it was now, but I had to pull probably $3,000 out of that budget for removal. There was, what did we do, five trees that needed removal, and 4 of those 5 were ash trees, but they were 70 foot tall, where we can't, our equipment's not near tall enough.
You just gotta have a 6-foot guy with a chainsaw, that's all you need.
Not when they're, this big at 50 foot up, that's a little, you let the professionals do that.
Is this where I throw that plug in for the forestry division again?
Yeah. And when you look back at some of the records, how much of it is the tree prices going up versus how much is that we haven't put money into that account?
So I don't have those prices. From last year, our prices really didn't go up. But I can't tell you what they were from 90, but I'm sure everything is increased.
Let's just say we probably haven't raised our budget to match the gross of the cost of a tree, or let's say to match the dollar per hour in manpower to take down a tree. Same thing where, okay. So then we
have a goal in mind of how many trees you think you'd like to plant next year.
Yep.
And then that'll tell you how much your increase in your budget is.
Yeah.
You're not gonna take from other areas.
Realistically, we would have budgeted for, what did I say, we had 26 trees, we probably would have been able to do roughly 30, maybe a little more. But there's gotta be, obviously,
look back and...
we really gotta push for people to wanna do it.
Look back and see, because it seems to me in years past that we've had upwards of 50 trees being planted.
And we could have, yeah, I haven't really...
And Ronnie probably would have something, but that would give you a general idea, but,
Yep.
you know, base cost of a tree, the maintenance of a tree, the tear down of a tree. You know, let the council try to, you know, I guess let them know the reason why you need to increase the budget. That'll be come budget time, and see what they can get worked in, so. You know, I gotta remember this, you know, the homeowner is paying 50% of that, so.
Right.
Okay. Are we gonna, do you know if we're gonna need a motion to increase the budget amount on that, or council will be?
I think,
I think once we start going through the budget process again,
Yep.
then we can.
I
Then
would
we
wait
can-
until we
okay.
look for next year's budget.
At least come back with,
Yeah.
you know, this
Absolutely.
is what the
I'll come
budget
back with a
was,
better
this
number,
would've been
you know.
nice if it would've been here
Yeah.
to not turn people away. The idea is, you're right, not to turn people away when you're offering a program and say, what do you mean?
I mean, thankfully,
I can't.
most of them are all understanding. I mean, they did call like the last week, and they're like, "Wow, I should've called earlier."
And then next year, hopefully they see it and they'll call again first, so, okay, perfect, so. Anything else on new business? Any discussion? No, okay, let's go to the, B of the, Kessler Aquatic Center.
So I had, Rachel Schultz would have been our assistant manager that we approved. She got an internship this summer, so I couldn't be mad at her. I mean, you expect this at some point. So Julia had messaged me, about a potential assistant manager. She was one that we actually interviewed for the position originally. They were, like I said, they were all great candidates. It was, if I didn't have Julia, I don't know how I would have determined who would have been a good fit. So she suggested Charlotte Woodrum, and I reached out to her and just offered her the position, and she was excited, and so the change would be for her from WSI to go to assistant manager this year.
Charlotte is, how old is Charlotte? Is she a 10th grader, 11th grader?
Pretty good question.
She's young.
I don't know.
She's been at the pool for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's had to have been at the pool for quite a while.
Yeah.
Young being, we've got a good assistant manager, potential manager down the road.
Yeah, I'm thinking as she stays with it long
Yes.
enough, this could be the next stepping stone for her as she gets
Right.
older. So we want to build that, we've talked about that. But I also think of, if you're younger than the people you're in charge of, sometimes that can become an issue. I gotta go to the restroom real quick.
Okay.
She's a great kid. I've coached her in soccer, good kid.
Okay.
I don't have any concerns there at all.
Well, part of it might be that since she's been there a while, people are gonna respect. I'm assuming especially if she's the type to, you know, be a leader when she was there and set a great example, and people's like, hey, she's great to have her young or old at that point, so.
Already interviewed her for it anyway, so it's a fine.
Okay. So, we will,
Make a
probably need a motion to accept Charlotte Woodrum as the new assistant manager.
I'll make the motion to approve Charlotte as the new KAC assistant manager.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chris, for your notes.
Yeah, I was trying.
While they'll reread this, so. Okay, either we gotta wait for Ben to come back, or do we know where the Arbor Day planting location is going to be?
Yeah, they moved to the Meadows? Over by the high school.
Yeah.
I think he's working with the school district, he's gonna tell us more.
Okay. So I'll take this, well, we'll wait. Chris, you gotta wait till the end anyways. I could throw it in there, then Ben will say, why wasn't I here when we said, congratulations. By the way, what's the, off the record, just everybody push your mute button, I'm just kidding. Where are you going? Why are you leaving us?
Well, I'm, I took a different position that's not in, the area, still live here, but tonight, like, I came in and ran in
We can
pretty
still wait
quickly.
for you.
Well, I know, but no, I'm up in the metro area.
Oh, okay.
So it's just gonna be, even though it's one night a month commitment, I can't, and I don't wanna be, I believe strongly in the commitment of being here, and I just...
Well, we appreciate it, so We'll have to repeat that now that Ben's back, but we'll wait till after the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would like to add too about this aquatic center stuff, so I've been in contact with Tracy Morrow, who runs the Dodge Center Aquatic Center. We've been kind of collaborating on down the road, potentially next year, working together as far as getting kids certified for lifeguarding.
Smart.
But she did reach out to me a couple weeks back. She was concerned that they might not even open because of lack of employees. And I fear that that will eventually come our way. I mean, thankfully, there are quite a few college students that have been coming back because they're pretty dedicated to our facility, and it must be an enjoyable environment to work. Otherwise, I don't know why they would want to come back. Not saying that, but I mean, there's definitely places where they can make more money. But, so, I mean, down the road, I fear that we will be struggling with employment at this aquatic center. I hope not, but...
Well, and that's where, you get the dollars per hour, and if you get enough people there, not to push people out of a shift because they feel like they're being overworked.
Well, and that kind of goes back to when we discussed about setting wages. I'm not saying we're like considerably higher, but we are higher than a lot of comparable facilities, and I think that's what keeps maybe our employees here. Not only do they like the environment, but they're getting paid pretty well for what they're doing. But I think, someday we're gonna feel that effect, because Dodge Center is definitely not the only facility that is probably struggling to open or find people.
Well, not only the employee part, but if Dodge Center doesn't open, are we gonna have an influx of kids, more kids coming?
I would,
So.
And maybe, she could be panicking a little bit more than what she should. That is one thing that, everyone here knows how meticulous Ronnie was, with the way he did the hiring for the aquatic center in December. I thank him so much for that, because I'd be going crazy right now, because a lot of these places are hiring now. And if I didn't know that I didn't have a staff right now, I'd be going crazy. So I do have to thank Ronnie for setting it up that way.
And I think, he felt the same way, where let's get a commitment up front as they're just starting to think about, what am I gonna do for spring? It's like, oh yeah, the pool. You kinda stop there thinking, because they're kinda guaranteed that job as they get here. Now, we do lose some because of internships, or even lose some during the summer because somebody got a summer job somewhere else.
But the nice thing is, I was prepared for that, Yes, we have a little, wiggle room for employment, but I wasn't blindsided by that and saying, oh, now we're really short of help or whatever.
And you'd hate to see the Dodge Center pool closed, no matter what. Every community is like any other business. You need to keep stuff local, and people see the need of that, and I'd like to think that they stay there. Even if it's, not to say this wrong, but the McNelia steps up and says, tell you what, we're gonna pay them more to make sure they don't lose their lifeguards, because the McNelias, they do a lot for Dodge Center, and it's wonderful that they do. It really helps that community, so, but not saying it wrong, but it wouldn't be bad if they close that. We've got extra staff that wants to be lifeguards. Now we've got onslaught, so we won't be shorthanded, but that's not the reason behind it, so.
Our pool has always done a good job of having lessons. I think the lessons that we provide build those swimmers that then become our swimming instructors and become our lifeguards. So I think paying our WSIs more does help, because that increases their likelihood of staying longer. And we keep the lessons going. When we keep the lessons going, it keeps the interest in the pool and learning how to swim, and that it's a feeder program. Our swimming lessons are the feeder program for our pool staff.
And, I guess, I don't know how we've done it in the past, but I feel that the way we have our lessons set up this year is quite accommodating to families. And then, like, having the free swim instead of, it seemed like last year with the swim lessons that we had during the evening, really kind of upset some parents as far as having, like, the open swim and stuff. I think, obviously every year is going to be a battle between who we make mad and who is happy, but you hope to minimize.
Well, you hope that you have a lot more happier and a lot less complaints, so, But, yeah, swim lessons is important.
That sign is open for swimming lessons, yes.
What's that?
Sign are open for
Yes,
swimming.
yep.
Do assistant managers teach lessons as well?
Yeah, so they have, everyone that's assistant manager has their certification in lifeguarding and WSI, so I mean, that's part of being an assistant manager, you have to be able to do everything. I mean, I've grown up that way, if you're a manager, you've done everything and you still work side by side with your employees. I don't feel like anyone's, obviously they get the brunt of it, of course, dealing with grumpy people or upset parents or whatever.
Okay. Well, it's good news, well, let's keep going forward on the pool, and best of luck to Rachel. Like I said, it's always interns are important. I'm losing an employee at work because they graduated from college, and now it's time to go into the real working world versus just work at there's nothing wrong with working at the hardware store, I told her, so. Anyways, yes, we made a motion and accepted for Charlotte, to be the new assistant manager, so that's been taken care of, so.
Seconded, sorry, I didn't finish.
Okay?
Thank you.
So now we're gonna move on to the Arbor Day planting location, so, Ben, where were we at on that?
So, Arbor Day's next Friday. I got 2 trees from Houston's. I have somewhere, put it in here. Well, they're both maples. One, I wanted to kind of do 2 different ones. I didn't want to do 2 of the same. It'd be something different. A Norway maple, and then I did an autumn blaze maple. They seem to grow probably about the same heights. One's obviously going to look a little different than the other. I decided the location would be up at Meadowland Park. We have nothing up there other than the woods on the south side. Yeah. So, one will be more on the east side as I kind of marked it out there. That's approximate. It'll probably be further east than where I put the mark, and same with the one on the north side. Probably be a little bit more north than right up by the border. But it'd be nice to have some shade up there and hopefully some future projects up there. I know Ronnie had planned to pave that ugly blurb of a parking lot there, but, so, down the road. But that's what I have planned for Arbor Day, and I'm excited to get it done, do it.
Good. And that's gonna be on the 28th?
Yep.
Okay, 10 a.m.?
Yep.
Form the lines.
Yeah, so actually that was another thing, they donated $300, so that's gonna cover the cost of the trees and probably some of the mulch, so we won't have really anything into it. That, I tried to plan that in hopes that your kids could come up there. If it's still potential, that would be great. They could actually assist in planting them, I can tell, they're all container trees, so teach them that you have to saw the roots off when you get them out of the container so that they grow the right way. It'd be nice to have them part of the whole Arbor Day. So if that's a possibility, just let me know.
Yep.
When it gets closer.
Do you have a time?
Yeah, it'd be 10 a.m. on Friday, yep.
Is that the 29th?
28th.
28th, okay, thank you.
Friday the 28th.
It should be done MCA testing by then, that'll be a fun little treat. I'll talk to my team.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll talk to my team tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you, I'll email you. Yep.
Okay. Anything else on that? Correspondence, besides Chris is on the speech? So Chris, this is Chris's last day, if you didn't get the memo from...
Yeah, I didn't send it to everybody, I sent it out to say after this meeting that I'd need to, and I apologize, I sent it like 11th hour, I meant to send it a week or 2 ago.
I'm surprised I saw it
this morning. As I was on the treadmill this morning, I'm like, oh, I gotta get that out. So, no, just, as I was mentioning, I've taken a different job. We don't have any immediate plans to move, but it makes it really hard for me to get back. The job is in the metro area, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm opening the opportunity for another community member, and it's been 2.5 years, so I'm not 20-plus years, but certainly I appreciate, everything that I've been able to participate in and, see a lot of the things happening, in the community, especially with the park system, so. That's it.
I know, we really appreciate it, or I appreciate, and I'm sure the park board, your insight that you've given us the last 2.5 years, because you've been involved in Rochester.
Yes.
So you've seen this side already, and I've learned on your side to where, you know, maybe I should get out of the hardware business and just get into parkland.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
And committees, but I think I'll just stay with the hardware store.
Yeah, no,
But
it's not all
good to have
cracked up to be.
sometimes your insight from another side and say, well, here's the different, like, just speaking about the grade of a, you know, the handicap accessible, and there's things that we don't think about, it's like, what do you mean can you just put it there? Nope, you can't, there's processes, and sometimes it's just a reminder. Ben, you're gonna learn yourself to say, well, what's the process, and Tim's gonna give us all the best insight, and sometimes I think he gets, I could talk about him now, he's gone, you know, he gets focused, but he does, and that's what he's supposed to do, but sometimes you don't see the little things on the side. It's like, yep, that's a good idea, so you'd be tough to replace, we'll hold your position for about 29 days.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. No, I appreciate it.
Well, and we thank you for what you've given and the insight you have, so.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And you have to find your own replacement when you leave early.
Oh, is that the rule? Okay, got it.
When you put your hand on that, repeat after me, Jan said.
Yeah, that was 2.5 years ago, so I haven't had to do it since then. I didn't remember that part of it.
Well, she probably forgot to mention, but it was, when you signed that first sheet, it was in
It says
fine
you
print.
find your own replacement.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
Well, good luck on your new chapter.
Oh, thank you, appreciate
Wish
it.
it would've been longer for me, but
Yeah, no,
I
it's
appreciate.
pleasure. Yep, no,
welcome to the world of change, and
yep.
everybody, the appreciation that we have for insight, and it's always good to have change, but sometimes it's good to have some good roots, and you're a good root. So now we're gonna chop you off. And
Yeah, there you go, move on. Everybody's replaceable.
I just have one quick question before we close the meeting. Can somebody take on the responsibility of looking for a grant for the wheelchair swing? Because she said she'd help write it.
Right.
And that's not my area of expertise at all. But like she said, probably somebody from the city or us needs to open up into those grants. There we go. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
I'm just throwing it out there, I'm not putting you on the spot, but.
I'll talk to Tim. Like I said, I know nothing about that type of thing. I need to learn about it for sure, but I think Tim might be my best resource with his knowledge and.
Let me make some phone calls.
Okay.
I'll try and get you something.
I really think that, that would be a really good place to start financially for us, and if we, if
Well, it'd
there's
be
grant
nice
out
to
there.
take as much cost out of it as possible.
And so if we can get grant money, that would move the project forward sooner. So I think we need to find somebody to do that research for us.
And if we worked with the school district with joint ventures, they have loading docks too.
Yeah.
So if they dropped them off at the school, then they already have that accessibility, and if they're part of it, then maybe 3 are a better option.
It'd be nice to put more than one out, for sure, you know.
Well, the need's there, and you feel for the young kids or the adults, anybody that's got that handicap that says, I wish I could swim, but I can't, or I wish I could swim, but I can't. That's me, I swim like a rock, so, they won't let me wear the floaties in the pool, so I can't go in the pool.
Well, I will say, coming from, I kinda understand where they're coming from. My dad is newly paralyzed as of a couple years ago from an accident. You don't realize how hard things are for people that are in that situation until you're actually part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying he'd go out and sit on a swing, but there's just the simplest tasks are impossible almost now. So I have a huge respect for families that deal with that on a daily basis.
And like I said, years back that we talked, and I wanna say it goes back to, I was probably still even on the softball association, because we were trying to figure out, do we have funds from the softball association and, the banner money to be able to do that with?
Pat Dibble did a presentation to the park board about that.
Okay,
That's what you were talking about earlier.
I think it goes back to, I kept thinking Janice spoke from hers, but.
Photos of the whole layout of the whole playground, of what it should be and what it should look
Right.
like.
I knew there was something that was back there, so now,
Yep.
so it's a case, and it would be, it's like a little park within a park.
It was something else. I mean,
Just-
if anybody wants to get a hold of her and just, I don't know if she's still got the information on it and everything, but
It's a $100,000 project or more, but,
big, but.
it's still something to
But
put
it
in
had
our minds
access.
and,
It was access for everything, everybody, every type of handicap.
and it's one of those cases where, nobody else around us has it, so why not cast and start it
Right.
versus having to
Well,
go,
we have a
so.
undeveloped park that's ready for something like that, and northeast would be
So
a
it might
great
be,
start.
start putting in the CIP plan to set some monies aside, we've got lots of green space, we got lots of parks, we got lots of things to do, and do we step off to the side of the box and be that community that says, let's do something a little different?
I don't know, Ben, if Ronnie passed on the information I gave him, when I went around and looked at different parks. But when we're talking about pushing wheelchairs through grass, they can't push a wheelchair through the
No.
wood chips. So,
So,
if we're gonna put a thing up there, like the Red Wing Park, I had sent all this information to Ronnie, but they have, they're like those soft rubber.
Yep, so I actually met with
Interlocking.
a sales rep, it's called Soft Surfaces. It's ungodly expensive, but absolutely, I mean, even if we could do a handicap accessible modular and swing set, and so half of it's the soft surfaces versus the wood chips. And, they estimate 20 years of usage out of it before you have to replace some of it. I really think that's a huge deal. I'm all for it, but, there again, we have to figure out where we can get
Red
the money.
Red Wings Community, purchased, you could buy one block, and then they have a sign with all the people that purchased those blocks, or whatever you call them, interlocking blocks. So, I mean, I think that would be a huge thing for us to do, and I think this community would do that.
Would this be something like the pad that they're talking about for the tennis court?
No.
No.
It's kind of the same material.
I mean, it's a
No,
material to where
it's like, so the stuff for the tennis court is actual, like, hard plastic that's, like, it's almost see-through,
Okay.
Where this stuff, you have to have a concrete base, and then it's like a 4 to 6 inch
Yeah,
pad.
it's what I mentioned, it's
Yep.
poured in place, so you can get the interlocking blocks, you have to lay it on top of either bituminous or concrete.
Yep.
And then you can either do, like, poured in place, hand troweled, like you would do concrete, and actually, you mix it, what they do is they take sacks of it and mix it in like a small mixer, like a concrete, and you pour it out and they hand trowel it in. Or you can get the interlocking pads that don't have the same safety rating for fall protection. They're still accessible and everything, but they don't, if you're gonna place it under a piece of play equipment or a swing set, they don't have the same impact resistance as...
Well, the whole Caldwell,
Yep, some do, some don't, and, well, I'll just leave it. Some communities have chosen to go that route, and with their
I just like the
insurance
idea
trust
that-
have chosen to
I just like the
do
idea
that
of
for a
community
while.
members being able to purchase 1 or 5 or 10 or, as a means of financing that project. So it's something for us to think about, I think.
Well, it's gonna be part of, the cost of that, and then does this community have enough support? Because once you say we're gonna do this, and now say you only get 250 community members donating, is that gonna be 5% of the project that we need? It's like, now we really get on the hook, so, I hate to,
It's just depending how we go about it. I mean, you're looking at a pretty
Well,
large expense just for the surfacing, and then you factor in the modulars. I mean, I was enlightened at how costly those modulars are when I was looking at a catalog, and I said, I would love to have that. Oh, wait, that's $150,000.
yeah, it's, to me, that side doesn't make sense for the dollars that to be ADA.
But unfortunately,
Yeah.
in this department where we're not an enterprise department, it's hard to be able to get to spend money of that nature.
I've seen at beaches, there's this roll-out mat, basically, that makes a beach wheelchair accessible. I wonder if that sort of thing could be used over wood chips, because that would be maybe a mess, but would be maybe less expensive.
So the only thing that I would say, and what I was mentioned to Tim about having the city engineer potentially take a look at it, so those are all products that you can buy to make things accessible. However, being in the city's park area, and if you're truly going to have an ADA accessible that reduces the city's risk or liability, you have to make sure they comply with all ADA accessibility requirements, versus buying just a product or whatever that might get you a temporary solution, like a private person might choose to do.
Like a playground module, let's not spend $150,000, but let's spend $75,000 to get this company's. But that's not the one that's going to...
So just while we were sitting here, the one they showed, or that's still up on the screen, it lists that it's applicable to commercial applications and not just residential. I'm sure it could be, but real quick, like you're probably familiar, like landscape structures is, but so I looked at landscape structures, I looked at Miracle Play equipment, they all have wheelchair accessible swings. Well, with the frame and the swing itself, take out the shipping, $3,000. Their examples were in the $20,000 to $30,000 range for the more commercial applicable ones. I'm not suggesting that that's what, but I think that's the difference, and I would, before any commitments made.
Some heavy research.
Well, yeah, and I think, I'll send you some stuff.
Yep.
I think locally, Mayo Clinic has some programs that I'm familiar with when I was in Rochester that certainly I wouldn't doubt that they might invest outside of the Rochester area because of just the residents having a clinic here, everything else. And then there's some local recreation grants that are based from the DNR and other things that I can...
Well, yeah, that might be a good, they may not realize that, you can get this for this much, but how does that work for the city versus him in his backyard saying it will hold and...
different requirements.
Right. And that's where...
My biggest thing is I want to make sure we're following those.
And that's where you brought a little check with our equipment companies, because they're gonna have the same type of equipment to do, or those equipment to satisfy the same needs.
Well, it's no different in your business, right? There's commercial applications for equipment and there's residential applications. So somebody that uses theirs in their backyard twice a week versus kids that are jumping on it for 12 hours a day and banging it, and that's what they should. They're kids, they play.
Will it work? Maybe. Will it last? Probably not.
Right. So, and that's where, when they come back, we get back to, again, it comes down to the right product, having the dollars for the right product is what we gotta make sure we stay focused on, so. But you're right, so. Any other correspondence?
We have to make a motion for the resignation, Chris. Do we have to do that?
So I can't speak to Casson, my past public sector experience. Typically, there's not. That would just get forwarded on to the council, and then the council would say if they want to advertise or open it up.
I couldn't remember if it was here we had to do it or if at council.
Yeah, at council.
I think it's, in this case, if he resigns and we say no.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Ultimately, it's the council that...
Nay. Oh,
you're stuck now.
I couldn't remember where
coming back.
Yeah, you've tried, you just gave up after
Try
a while.
missing 4 months early. That doesn't matter, they still leave you a chair here, so. No, but thank you for your insight and your time, so.
Thank you.
Always, if we don't have any other, announcements, our next meeting is going to be on May 16th. Okay, same spot. We'll see you in a month. Otherwise, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Did you want to second it too?
And no, I'll just do that one.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I think it's the last one to come to.
Yeah, it was good.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.